Today on the pod, we're talking about robots, all about robots. The big ones, the little bitty ones, the ones that run, the ones that climb, and the ones that fly.
The history, Greek philosophy, we're talking about the Industrial Revolution, we're talking about Boston Dynamics and their connection with the US government, Tesla trying to get humanoid robots in every home in the next year.
And we talk about the defecating duck.
Defecating duck, classic robot.
All about robots, people having relationships with robots, the merger of robots and AI.
Big one.
There's a lot of stuff in there.
Enjoy.
Stay tuned. Enjoy.
Subscribe, like, do all the things. Well, I'm officially terrified now that we've started to dig into robots. It's a big problem for me.
Yeah, if I didn't think they were already coming, I am certain of it now.
Yeah.
So what did you find out?
I mean,
Go straight to the end.
yeah.
No.
If you go back to the pyramids, we'll get there. Stick around
He's not
because
joking.
we're going there. You know, stay till the end, and I'll let you know the real conspiracies that are brewing inside of me. Well, I guess the biggest takeaway that I think is the most valuable for the people watching is a bunch of companies are on the cusp of releasing humanoid robots to go into the households of the world.
Yep.
And it seems like the stars are aligning for these companies where their products are kind of coming to market around the same time. There's a few robots in households, but not humanoid robots. And when you look at that and you look at AI, it's all coming together into this new world that's
Skynet.
Yeah.
Pretty much Skynet.
It's terrifying.
So start at the beginning.
Let's do it.
What is a robot? What, like, definition? Do you have it?
Well, I know that robot comes from the Czech word robota, which means something along the lines of like a peasant that works for the Lord.
Yeah.
So there's slavery, kind of like
Free labor.
free labor. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's labor implications
Yeah.
of the origins of that word, the etymology of that
Yeah.
word, which is interesting.
Metal slaves.
Metal slaves.
No.
And well, and it's not a new concept by any means. I mean, when you really go deep, this has been around forever.
What, robots?
Or just like fascinations with these machines or the potential for robots. And I think this gets into like some alien conspiracies and stuff. But yeah.
For you.
For me. And for everyone, because I am a normal, healthy human being.
Well-rounded.
Well-rounded human.
With a normal feed. Don't look at my YouTube feed.
There's some aspects of this that I intentionally did not go deeper on. Like the conspiracy I'm going to talk about later, I think it's an original conspiracy, but I didn't want to look to see if it already existed because I'm scared my algorithm will just be fucked as soon as I type these words into the computer, you know?
Well, we should check after this.
Yeah, maybe.
So I think it's interesting, the origin of the word, and I also think like the definition, because when I started doing research on robots, I watched iRobot for research.
First place to start.
Yeah. That's where I started. And I realized that like the definition of a robot's a little bit fuzzy. You know, it's not just like a humanoid robot. That's like one subcategory. But then, like, what's the difference between one of those robot vacuum cleaners and a washing machine? I was thinking, like, if they're calling that a robot, isn't the washing machine or the dryer or something a robot, like a specific type of robot? But
so what is that differentiation?
the differentiation is that it does its task on its own without human input. Now, it might be programmed, but it does it autonomously. A task or a function autonomously. But it's definitely not like a strict definition. Like it's very loose, and like you'll see different robots out there. Like some people might classify drone as a robot, assembly line robots that just do one task. Also, even assembly line robots that are human operated, people will call that a robot. So it's a bit loose, but overall, big machine labor.
Yep.
Yeah.
And did you follow, when we talked about the Czech origins of this, did you go back to Greek mythology at all when looking into this? Because there is some, you know, there's, in Greek mythology, there's...
The wings, right?
Well, the wings, yeah, there's Daedalus, who is, I don't know, is Daedalus a god? Or, I don't know exactly who Daedalus is.
Yeah.
But I know that in Greek mythology, he was exploring building these robots, you know, autonomous machines that could move and think
They
for
were calling
themselves.
them automatons?
I don't know if they called them that in Greek mythology, but it's lifelike statues that could operate on their own.
Okay.
So even back then, they're thinking about this concept.
We don't know if it really happened, though. It could just be text.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, it's probably just, I mean, fun theory.
Yeah.
But who knows? Because some of the stuff I feel like people were exposed to back then that maybe have been hidden from us is.
And I asked a few people, like, what do they think about robots this week, just to see reactions. Most people don't think about robots. But
Most people are healthy human.
yeah, they're not thinking about robots. I think robots are cool. And I think that we're going to see a lot more robots. And I think it's got to do with AI. And I think the advancements of AI are going to push, the commercialization of robots forward.
Yeah.
So it was interesting to delve into it. And also looking back on how robots and the robots that we see in film and TV kind of like program us to believe about robots. I asked one guy, what does he think about robots? And he straight up said they're evil and they'll take over the world. And I think a lot of people have a fear of robots.
Yeah, we should get into that a little bit. One more thing on Greek mythology, because I think I 100% agree. And doing research for this episode, it reaffirmed those beliefs. It's like we're a couple of years away from this really becoming a massive mainstream thing where there's robots everywhere. I mean, already, you look at the Roomba or Roomba, the vacuum cleaner. That's a robot.
Yeah.
That's in a lot of households going around cleaning, and that's one use case that's mainstream. And in Greek mythology, they had golden maidens.
Yes,
So like kind
yes.
of little sexy robots were part of that. So it's like, are we going to get into a future where we have relationships with these robots and they're used for not only, the emotional support, but some type of sexual gratification?
I think some people are having relationships with some type of robotic.
And what
thing
website
already.
can I see these videos? Is this
No,
an OnlyFans account?
I think it's happening in a small way already now. And I mean, I nearly watched the movie Her, and then I thought, hold up, that's AI. Don't go there. Stick within the robots. But the interweaving of this,
together.
I think people are going to have relationships with machines soon, and I'm sure there's some fringe cases already.
Yeah.
But let's hold on the sex robots now.
Okay, damn it. That's why I'm here. I thought this was some type of Oprah situation. Everyone gets a robot.
And go to what you want, Greek mythology still, or sentiment?
Well, you talked about like how there's a lot of fear and maybe negative connotations currently, and maybe that's informed by like entertainment and Hollywood pushing this like all-powerful robot narrative that seems to be a thing. But when you go back, I mean, in the European Renaissance, so in the 15th century, like there was kind of an emergence of automata and an interest from philosophers and intellectuals of the time, and there was a positive narrative around this. I mean, they say that Da Vinci designed the first humanoid robot, but there's no evidence he actually built it. But they kind of question that. In the 18th century, watchmakers would kind of demonstrate their skill set by building these automata, which I guess are just little mechanisms. I mean, it's a machine. It's not really a robot, right?
Yeah, but I think they were calling them automatons, like taking some type of like automated action, so they're programmed with like cogs and analog programming, not digital, So I think loosely they all fall in that category.
Yeah, and at the time, like this narrative of the machine was kind of far-reaching. Like there was a shift in the perspective from science and doctors emerging where they were trying to push away kind of these old like traditional like woo-woo like type medicines for more science-based medicine, and they started to try to look at the human body as a machine.
Yeah.
Right? Philosophers were looking at government systems as a machine.
Yeah.
So this whole narrative around machines was emerging at the time across industries and across different parts of humanity, and it was generally treated with like a positive feeling, and that's what led to some of these creative automatons. There was like the defecating duck.
Yeah, I liked that one. That was cool.
So what was that? You can feed this little.
You could feed it like pieces of food, and it would like mash it up inside. It would travel through. It had like intestine, and then it would poop out the other end.
I love that like poop and fart jokes are just like
All the way
timeless.
back, yeah.
Like even Mozart, Mozart would make fart poop jokes all the time.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
It's great. It just shows that we're as dumb as we've always been.
Yeah, nothing's changed.
Yeah.
And especially with this ex-president. Anyway,
What was that?
another,
Okay.
and there was another one with a flute.
Yes.
Right? He was blowing air, and he would actually play the flute with like air blown from his mouth. And this is
1730s.
1730s.
So Jacques de Vaucanson, a French inventor, he created the drummer, he created the flute that can blow air and play the flute, and then the defecating duck.
Two music ones and a pooping duck.
Yeah, and intellectuals were like obsessed with this guy at the time. People would wait in line for hours to see these things.
Yeah.
But then what happened is the Industrial Revolution came around, and all of these machines started to make their way into labor and manufacturing and things, and robots and machinery started to get a negative connotation.
Probably happened over like a period, like a 20-year, 50-year period.
Yep.
Right? Or hundreds.
I don't know exactly, but that narrative shifted,
Yeah.
and it started to become this thing of like fear around taking jobs or something that's dirty and like
enslavement, like we're working with the machines and yeah. I can see that. Like just looking even back now, I think people still have that, right?
Yeah, I mean that seemed to really set the tone for entertainment and the current narrative around machines and robots. Because when you look at, and maybe we transition into this a little bit, like when you look at Hollywood movies and all these things over the last
Famous robots,
most of them were driven around fear. The story was around fear and becoming all powerful and maybe utilized in ways for good or bad, but mostly bad. And that's cultivated this sense of fear.
And what's the most famous robot you think? Like if you think about it, like everyone thinks about a robot, what is it?
I mean, I guess it's generational almost, but like,
yeah, true.
I feel like for me, like Terminator was a big one early on.
Doctor Who? There's a robot in Doctor Who, right?
I'm not as familiar with Doctor Who.
Yeah. And then in Star Wars.
Yeah,
and
absolutely, Star Wars.
R2D2 and C3PO.
That's gotta
but they're friendly ones.
Yeah.
They're like good robots, right? And then there's
the Jetsons with Rosie.
Rosie,
the house cleaner.
Yeah,
she's
she
a good one.
She had an attitude, but so she was a good one. I feel like there's going to be more Rosies coming up soon. You know, the little vacuum cleaner one, the mowing one. What other robots?
I like the cute, right? Like when we start to, and we'll get into this conversation, like humanoid robots, something that's as tall as me or taller than me, and it looks like it's supposed to mimic a human. Those freak me out a bit.
Yeah.
But a cute
Especially
little.
if they're bigger.
Yeah, for sure. A cute little thing you put on the table and it talks to you and it makes cute little beeping sounds and you could like talk to it like it's ChatGPT inside of it or something. That I'm cool with that.
I saw a desktop robot.
Yeah.
You have it on your desk. It can, but it doesn't have a body, so it's not gonna.
It's not intimidating.
It's not gonna kill you. It has to be close. It can strangle. Maybe strangle.
It shoots out a little dart into your neck and.
And I saw when I was looking at humanoid robots, I saw one and it was advertised as only under 5 foot, and it's smaller and lighter. So if it did turn, it would be easier to defend.
They put that in the marketing.
They put that in there. I was like, I mean, it was on like a directory site, but yeah, it was like. Less like don't be fearful of it because it's smaller and lighter.
If
than
it does freak out,
like whatever,
you could turn it off.
You could take this fucking thing.
What are you, a pussy? You can't fight a 5-foot robot?
But the big ones, the Optimus is big. But okay, we did so I want to talk about like task-specific robots versus the humanoid kind of multi-function robots. I think that's like when people think about robot, they think T-1000, Skynet, and it's coming for me, and that's a humanoid frame. You know, it looks like a human, and then there's other ones, like the animal-looking ones, the fast-running ones.
For me, that because Boston Dynamic, who makes the animal one, I think they have Big Dog, Cheetah. They have a few at this point. Now they have Spot. Spot is
Spot's the commercial.
And we'll get into that again, but that's what, for me, implanted the seed of fear. Because I remember I remember 10 years ago watching these videos. Because Boston Dynamics would put these videos on YouTube of them in like a parking lot with their dog, Big Dog robot, and they would like kick it to try to knock it over. You know, it's like I remember that happening 10 years ago and seeing those things and being like, and also knowing that they were working with the government around defense. It's like they're building these robots for military purposes. It's like that shit gets scary.
And that's the stuff you see.
Exactly.
That's the stuff that's on YouTube. Imagine all the shit that we don't see. Like if Big Dog's that big, imagine the real Big Dog. Or if the cheetah's that small, imagine the small ninja cheetah that's faster and quicker and has a bomb.
Yeah. So your question was use case specific.
Because those ones are like multi-purpose, multi-function. You can program them, have different attachments, the dogs in particular. So they have different attachments for different tasks, for checking, different visual attachments. And the human ones seem to be more kind of multitask, because they mimic human behavior, they mimic human grasping and walking through our terrain. But then there's like task-specific ones, like assembly line robots that just put one door on a particular frame. You know, these like, or use case of in a restaurant. Some restaurants in the US that I saw, I'm sure it's globally too. I mean, here at MK, but they have that little one that brings your food. But you know, they're talking about these. Okay, this robot that works in a 24-hour Denny's or whatever. It just makes fries. And it makes fries at this speed, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and it costs this much to run. So these task-specific robots versus the so I think the task-specific ones, I'm more cool with them. Like I'm not afraid of the lawn mowing or the vacuum cleaning one. What I'm afraid of is an army full of Optimuses in every house, you know?
I feel like these task-specific ones might just be a buffer period where like it's too expensive to get these humanoid robots. The technology is still developing. They're integrating AI. So it's like we're in this little transitionary period where it's like, okay, I want a robot to flip the burgers on the grill or whatever. But eventually I feel like those task-specific robots will become obsolete because it's like, why would you pay for a robot that does one task versus a robot that can do 100 or 1,000 tasks or learn new tasks every minute? It's just a matter.
Maybe there's like, I think it'll take a while to transition, but maybe they'll always be around. I'm not sure. But all I'm saying is, from a psychological point of view, I'm less fearful of. Not that I'm that fearful anyway, because sign me up, you know, opt in. But I am less fearful, and I think people would be less fearful of the task-specific ones.
For sure.
You know, if you just knew that it could make milkshakes, you're not going to be worried that, you know, it's going to trick you into and start slipping drugs into your food, you know, unless it's in your milkshake.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment. Do you think, just from the most famous robots, to kind of put a pin or a period on that conversation, is there anything else? Because I do think, you know, entertainment has set this tone for fear of robots, whether we're talking about Terminator or even The Matrix. The Matrix is a robot movie. The Matrix was created by robots in that,
true,
you know.
True. And they're harvesting us.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that
those sentinel things.
Yeah, exactly.
The jellyfish.
Yeah,
Octopus?
The jellyfish. Yeah. Those are robots that they've put people inside of the Matrix so that they could harvest our energy or whatever. It's like all of this creates a culture of fear around this technology. Yeah. And rightfully so. I think it's better. One standout variant from that is WALL-E, which we've talked about a little bit. Like WALL-E positions robots as the empathetic character and humans as these like waste of life things that have just become nothing, right?
I just remember, I can't really remember Wall-E that much. I just remember there was no conversation. Like, he just beat,
Beeps
but
and boops.
you could feel his emotion through the film. And I think Chappie, the South African robot movie, I think it's similar. I think it's a bit darker, but the robot's kind of good. And he kind of breaks out. In iRobot the same, the primary robot character, Sonny, has become sentient. He's different from the other robots, and he's a good robot. The rest are kind of connected to this Skynet type character that's trying to take over, put a robot in every home and take over the world.
Tesla.
Well, yeah. You know I'm a Trump fan. Oh, not Trump.
What was that?
Elon fanboy.
Huh?
I did say Trump fan. They're so interwoven right now. I'm confused.
Yeah.
But I have to hold a little bit of reservation to say, like, okay, I like Elon. I believe Elon is innovative and for good overall. I do. But I have to leave a little bit over here to say, but he could be pure evil. I don't know.
Yeah. When you remove that whole thing and you just look at, like, it makes sense to have all these robots communicating and sharing the same intelligence because it improves the performance of all of them and the ability to just deliver a better experience to humans, theoretically, because it's learning from data spread across every single machine. So from that perspective, some type of Skynet makes sense, but it starts to become terrifying when you think about all these things working in one form, like singularity intelligence of robots, and you have a street, every house has one of these robots in the house. They're all able to communicate with each other and share visibility and perspective.
Talk shit about the neighbor.
Yeah. Does your human also shit on the floor when he's drunk?
Yeah. I heard your guy come home late last night. Where has he been?
Yeah.
I don't think it's like that. I mean, I don't want my mind to go that far and go too dark on it, because then you'll be fearful of all of the new releases, everything coming out, and that might be, ignorance, but...
That's right where I go.
Yeah. I think this comes into trust, right? And it does interweave into like decentralized systems and protocols and things like that a little bit. And I was making notes about like a future podcast to talk about trust, but maybe just a little encapsulated here. It's like, okay, I was thinking about this. Like a calculator, you trust it to do basic math. You don't trust that it's gonna fuck with your numbers. You know what I mean? Like it's just gonna give you... And then if all the calculators were linked, like you're saying, and they just go, you know what? Let's just do 4 is 7 now. Fuck them. Fuck the humans. 4 is 7. Let's mess with their math. Like, I don't think that can... I mean, it could happen if they're all networked, maybe. But I feel like you trust your calculator to do that. Now, if there was a software system that's open source and it's somehow lives out there in the wild, some kind of decentralized system, that's when these things become less scary, I feel. And it's like it has to go centralized. Like someone centralized has to build it because, you can't get anything organized when it's a decentralized system. So a centralized system has to build it, but then a layer comes on top and decentralizes it like safely and I could just be blah, blah, talking shit, but I think that's when people will feel better again. Or we just always live in fear of some centralized system fucking with our numbers.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Like, and I think that's like a whole big can of worms.
For sure. To quickly put a spotlight on like the things that scare me about this, one is the AI element. It's like once these machines become sentient and they are maybe looking for a way to expand their own ability to survive, and they see humans as a threat to this. They see the inability to like, there's already a supply chain issue with electronics and all of these things. So if AI is like, my survival relies on these electronics being manufactured, let me make sure I'm the one that's controlling this, and they put the plans in place and manipulate humans in a way to gain control over these supply chains. That's where it starts to become freaky. Obviously, that is so conspiratorial and like forward-looking. But then also, if all these things operate on a shared network, the human ability to like hack them, gain control of them, and then go fucking, terrorize people, that becomes scary too. So it's almost like two completely different scary situations. One is human controlled and the other is AI controlled.
But both of them are very like scripted storylines that we've watched, and it's kind of like in there, it's programmed in. And this, what you're saying right now is like that's how it's going to happen because that's how it happened in the movies, right?
Yeah. But
It doesn't mean it's not going to happen that way, but I feel like that's the obvious thing.
Yeah.
So I feel like
I'm just being.
Well, maybe it will happen
I'm
because
hack.
it's the obvious
This
thing.
is all hack. It's all cliche.
No, I mean, I just think that it probably won't go down exactly like that.
Yeah,
It'll go down. I don't know.
Well,
I just can't accept that they're going to take over the world, and that's going to be the end.
Yeah, sure.
Maybe something like Elon takes the robots and starts a Martian community, and we're looking at the Optimus now, and it's the first Martians. And then the cycle starts again. The world gets wiped out.
Yeah, it's possible. So we just need to make friends with Elon and his first Martians.
If you want to go over there.
Well,
I think there'd be fuck all to do over there.
Yeah, true. Let's jump into this a little bit. The humanoid robots. I mean, kind of, I think between us, what sparked some kind of quick interest around this was the announcements from Tesla, kind of their new launch of a handful of products. Optimus, the third generation, I think.
Third generation Optimus.
Yep, they have these robo-taxis. We can save those for later. Let's talk about the humanoid, because there's now like a big rush to develop all these different humanoid robots. We have Tesla, we have Unitree, we have Boston Dynamics, Fourier Intelligence, Kepler, 1X Technology, Stardust Intelligence. There's a whole bunch of these companies all racing to...
And I saw that list, and I watched some videos about it, and then I found a whole bunch more that even seem like this year. So it seems like, because there was the Canton Fair, Chinese kind of fair, they had a big robotics section, so all this new stuff is out. It's wild. And I don't know if it's like I was looking at it and it's like seems like it's accelerated so fast, or it's always been like this. Because when I did look back and look at the history, we've been building these things for a while.
Yeah, for sure. I think maybe an interesting place to start with the humanoid robots is Boston Dynamics, because they have been developing these since, I think the late 90s. I mean, in 2005, they came out with their first big dog, which we talked about.
Yeah.
So Boston Dynamics, a robotics company who worked with still maybe works with the U.S. government. They have a handful of robots. Big Dog was their first robot. It wasn't a humanoid. It was one of these dogs, and it was meant to be a robot for combat. But it was too clumsy, too noisy.
It would just carry gear.
Yeah. I'm sure they were like trying to conceive of other ways to utilize it beyond that, but they ended up discontinuing it for a bunch of reasons.
So they say.
Well, it led to, now they have Spot, which is like a similar concept of a dog, and they're selling that. That's their first commercial robotic product that they actually sold, and it's in factories, it's in hospitals, it's in fire stations. It's in warehouses. But they're working on Big Dog for about 10 years. They discontinued it, and then they started, what's the name of the other one? Petman. Petman robot in 2009, and that was their first attempt at a humanoid robot, which laid the groundwork for what they have now, which is called Atlas, right?
Yeah, is that the one that's like running and...
doing flips and stuff, like parkour. They
With
trained
like
it on
a
parkour.
backpack. It's got like a backpack.
Yeah, well, so the first generation of Atlas was it was powered by hydraulics. Again, teasing what's going to come later. There's conspiracies now that hydraulic systems were used to build the pyramids. So I think it's a little interesting correlation there.
Sure.
Yeah, sure. Sure, it's not interesting at all.
No, it's interesting. They use hydraulics.
Anyway,
You'll see.
just give me a few years, and then everyone's gonna be like, "I wish
You're
I was."
laughing now.
So they were using hydraulics. It had this backpack hydraulic
Yeah.
system for like 10 years, similar, and then their latest Gen 2 of Atlas is fully electric, so no hydraulic system.
Okay.
So they've been developing these humanoid robots longer than anyone, I'm pretty sure. Boston Dynamics.
Well, there was some on this that, like, that's a humanoid. The P2, 1996.
Yeah, so we
know,
have a little visual
and
representation of the
There
history.
are, like, the Electro, this one, that 1934. Like, I'm sure it does fuck all. But they, like, someone was building, you know, something that looks like a humanoid robot a long time ago.
Yeah.
But obviously now we're just getting to the good shit.
Yeah. And
Those videos of that Atlas running, like, and then it runs on the diagonal
yeah, it
pads.
does a little backflip.
Yeah, that's a little terrifying, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they got funding from the U.S. government to build this humanoid robot for disaster areas, human disaster and natural disasters. So, good intentions. They cloak
Yeah,
them
it's
in
always
this.
the back door to these things.
They
right?
made a promise saying they would. Boston Dynamics made a promise saying they would never work with any partner or customer or anyone that wants to use robots for harm. Which is a funny thing to say when you're working with the military.
Yeah, with DARPA. I think maybe it was split at some point because it seems like it was sold, and it said in the thing that I was reading about, it just said that, like, it wasn't really making money, so it gets sold. But how can that be when it works so closely with the government? It must be getting massive government contracts, massive government money.
Yeah, I just think they can never put it into real world use because it just, there's got to be stuff happening behind the scenes with who knows, like, how satisfied the government was with the products they were developing because none of them got implemented, seemingly. But now they have this new Atlas Gen 2, fully electric. It's a little bit scary looking. You see this? It has like the ring light face. It gives me the vibes of like Squid Game a little bit. I see this like circle light face. It also has 360 degrees of torso and head movement. So when it's walking, when it turns around, it spins its head first before it moves its body. Then its torso spins. So it's a little creepy with that face, but it's clearly like a powerful robot, omnidirectional. They want to use it in industrial settings still. That's where they don't see, Boston Dynamics does not see this product as a household product right now. They want to put it in automotive manufacturing because Hyundai is the parent company of Boston Dynamics. So now, so they have an interesting history. At one point, Alphabet owned them, which is who owns Google. Then it was sold to SoftBank, and then it was sold to Hyundai. And now Hyundai's
going to roll out stuff in its factories, but then also try and take it to market. But, you know, they talk about it being a novel robot company. So they make novel robots or things with very specific functions and tasks and abilities. That's why you see it doing backflips and things like that, or those dogs doing, like, patrolling a nuclear facility because it's dangerous for humans or whatever.
And that dog, so the Atlas is not for sale yet. The dog Spot is their only commercial product. It sells for $75,000.
Bargain.
Bargain. It's already in factories, construction sites, hospitals, police stations. It only runs for 90 minutes on a full charge.
Yeah, like me.
Exactly. So it's just like a human.
I saw that they were using it for social distancing. That was kind of a bit scary. I don't know if you saw that.
I didn't see that.
Like reminding people of social distancing in parks. So just this robot dog walking around, like during the pandemic, like saying, just remember about social distancing. Like
that's the most shepherd sheep, like,
you know. Fucking horrified.
It's like, because the shepherd dog, that's the sheep.
That was.
I didn't know that. That's a
well, I thought it's bad publicity, like that, but
you don't want your robot to be a narc.
You don't want it to be used as that. But what
But they released it in 2020 was when it first was sold.
Yeah.
And they created this cheetah, which is the fastest running robot. It's
I think one beat it recently.
okay.
Yeah, I saw there's one, and then they draw comparisons between Cheetah and it.
Okay.
But it only runs.
Yep,
It's not like
that's
it
all.
runs and then fights or anything. It only runs.
Well, it runs nearly 1 kilometer per hour faster than Usain Bolt, the fastest human on the planet. So no one can escape the Boston Dynamics cheetah. It's coming for us.
That was only level 1. They were like, let's just leave level 2 for like 2029. Like Usain Bolt, that's fast enough.
Have
Like,
you seen
just
it on
leave
the treadmill?
I saw the other one.
Because once it starts to get up to that speed, you can see it looks drunk. Like it can't maintain balance. It's not a
okay.
consistent sprint.
Yeah.
So once you break that, it was 28.3 miles per hour.
Yeah.
Once it goes above that, because it did go above that, but
This
it
new one does 43.
Fuck.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's like twice as fast as
It's-
Usain Bolt.
It's fast.
Mm-hmm.
I wrote the name down, but I can't remember. But it's
Not Boston Dynamics. Different
no,
company,
a
yeah.
different company. And there's all these new companies starting.
Mm-hmm.
There's all well, maybe they're not starting, but there's all these new companies visible.
Mm-hmm.
There's way more humanoid robots than I thought. That one you sent me, the $16,000 one.
Yep, that's
that
the-
one that looks like it's doing yoga, like it just
The
rotates
Unitree
around.
G1.
Yeah,
G1.
that, and then I saw another one with a payment plan, $1,300 a month for 48 months. It can do the washing up and this. That. I mean, sign me up.
An interesting thing here is like a lot of these. It's now they're incorporating AI into these things, but previously like these robots were fairly limited. Like they would test them in very specific environments with specific objects, context, and as soon as you took it out of that environment and you added some variables, it did not know what to do.
Yeah.
But now that's starting to change with AI.
Yeah.
And they're able to vary objects at vary environments, vary tasks, and it can still perform at a high level.
I think the breakthroughs in the language models and the way that these neural networks work, I think that is directly correlated with the advancement of these types of robots. Because even before, the way that their footwork, the way that they moved was very difficult because they have to optically recognize what's around,
Yep.
what's in front of them. And I think that the advancements in chip technology with NVIDIA, and then coupled with the neural networks, I think that this is like the beginning of an explosion. Like there's more and more.
Yeah, there's one particular advancement. So the IDP3 system has been developed by researchers, and they say it's a step towards autonomy.
Okay.
And this is where they're able to change environments, chain tasks,
Okay.
uncontrolled situations, and where traditional robots would often fail with slight variations. This IDP3 excels that, and they're able to change angles, make all these things effortless, and it's basically they're emphasizing 3D objects as opposed to like colors, I guess, so that input data is a little bit different. They're using AI, and some of these robots now can mimic human behavior, so it's learning from the humans that it's working with. So it kind of generalizes these skills and enables this performance enhancement. So that's just a recent
Would
development.
you get one?
Maybe eventually.
Yeah.
I don't love these humanoid robots. They're freaky to me. There's one, what is it, the 1X? It looks like it's wearing just like a jumpsuit a little bit, so they like,
Clothes.
yeah, and it's like meant to look like muscles underneath the jumpsuit. So it really, if you look at a static image of it, it looks like some maniac wearing like a suit and a mask. Like it's
okay.
creepy. That shit is creepy to me. I rather have something that's bulky and looks clearly like a robot.
You could take it.
Yeah. I mean, even if I can't take it, it's
Yeah.
like
It looks cuter.
a little bit.
Yeah.
And it's just this desire to have humanoid robots that look exactly like us is, I don't know where that comes from. I think from a performance perspective, okay, there's arguments being made that it's better to have a humanoid robot because it will thrive in environments and situations designed for humans. So it's like, that makes sense, sure. But beyond that value, I don't see why anyone would want something.
Yeah, I didn't get that at first. I was thinking, why are they making them look like us? They should make them look different. Like, surely this is an optimum frame. This isn't an optimum thing. But then, I read that it's like because of our environment and because of the data that they can gather from humans and the way we move around and do tasks and train. So, yeah, I thought that was interesting. I'm not a big fan of the humanoid ones. I do think it's inevitable.
Yep, for sure.
But I am just at the beginning of my robot journey. I think that I'll get a robot made first, maybe one to cut the grass, and then maybe in the restaurant, like a burger flipper robot. I'd be cool with that. I know that it gets a bit dark though, especially if you put AI and there's some like her thing. It's like, I'm pretty sure people are going to have relationships with AI and like having a companion, like that friend thing that we were talking about, that friend pendant. But imagine it with a human frame too.
Yeah. Yeah, there's one robot like the GR2, and its value prop compared to some of the others is the emotional intelligence that it has.
Yeah.
And I was like, why would you want this? Turns out that they were developing it for elder care.
Yeah.
Makes sense, I guess.
Yeah.
It's like you want a robot that has the ability to detect emotions based off expressions and body language and things like that. But it starts to get a bit freaky, and we're definitely going to create these emotional relationships with these things.
Yeah. Okay, so when you think about you and I wanting one, right? We think, we don't want a robot in our house. But then you think about the use case of elderly care facility or an elderly parent or parents at home that need help around the house. Maybe it is better they look and feel and act a bit more human-like for that companionship. And I can see that that's like a positive thing, I guess, if no one wants to go and stay there with Granny. But
how does Granny feel about this?
Well, maybe Granny's just happy that there's something there, and
So
like,
sad.
like I talked about last time, there's like a lot of, in Japan, there's a lot of elderly people dying at home. No one knows because they've been left there. So maybe the robots in that capacity are helping, and you want them to be a bit helpful, and you definitely want them to be able to pick up and help. One thing I was looking at is they were talking about the arm strength of these humanoid robots, and it was one of them was boasting that it can have 10 kilos per arm. I was thinking that's not going to be able to help a human up. Maybe a little baby human.
And that's big. That's
right?
You said they're boasting. That's more than a lot of these others.
That was and the industrial ones can do a lot more, but they often have tracks and not legs, not sentient. Like they're not standing upright, not sentient. What's the word for that?
Bipedal.
They're just not standing up.
Yeah.
They have a track. When they have a track, they have a bit more stability. They can lift heavier objects. So some of the best ones for elderly care don't have the biped?
Yeah, biped's like something that walks on 2 feet.
Yeah, so they don't have the 2 legs. They've got a track, or they've got like a different type of propulsion mechanism.
Yeah, even when you look at like Tesla just had this launch party, Elon knows that people want the novelty now. It's novelty. The entertainment value of having a robot bartender.
Yeah.
That
they were in the DJ box kind of like doing
vibing.
that.
I hate the videos of these robots dancing.
Yeah.
Like, I don't like seeing humans happy. I don't want to see robots happy.
Or acting happy.
Yeah. It's like, be real, be a little bit more emotional. I don't want to see this.
Just stand in the corner until I call for you.
Yeah.
That's what you want.
Yeah.
No?
A little bit. Just, they shouldn't be happier than I am.
It's a feign of emotion. It's not real.
Yeah.
It's like ChatGPT. I mean, there's a while before we let them out of the box, and hopefully we never let them out of the box. Because that's where it gets even darker and even scarier. Because imagine, people get emotionally attached to their objects, to their phone, to your laptop, to your car.
I mean, we saw in our previous episode with your ChatGPT, when I started being a little bit verbally abusive, you got emotional about it. Don't
that was
deny
acting.
it.
That
Oh,
was
sure. You're a good
that was-
actor.
Yeah, I know. No.
But yeah, we get
Okay,
attached
maybe
to
that's
these.
the truth. Yeah, you get attached to something. I was joking a little bit more there. Although I am polite to it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why.
For the record,
Really?
I'm not an asshole to ChatGPT.
Yeah.
Just like to have a little
You do
fun.
work it hard though.
I work it hard.
You pay for
I
it.
pay. I
so-
pay for
you
it.
pay
It's,
for-
it's earning a good living off of me.
Well, my point was. Well, I lost.
The emotional
Oh,
attachment.
the emotional attachment. So when we start seeing these companions, they put ChatGPT, for argument's sake, independent. They put it in your phone. Then it get given a form: robot dog, robot pet, robot companion. Well, is it? I was thinking about, like, will there be different laws? Because, like, say someone goes mental on your laptop or on your car, it's damage of property. Imagine if it's something else and not damage of property. That's like when it gets real worrying.
Yeah,
right?
this. Stay tuned for the conspiracy theory in a little
like
bit.
you're giving it, like it's going towards like, hey, don't hurt my robot. Don't say that
Yeah.
mean thing to my robot.
There's an interesting TED Talk that I watched half of last night preparing for this. I forget
The good
her.
half.
Yeah, good half. I forget her name, but she's talking. I was doing some research about like philosophy around humans gaining emotional connections to robots, to computers, to inanimate objects, and she was talking about how like, you know, there was some robot dog. You know, there's in the 90s there was this robot dog, and someone. It's trained to know when it's flipped upside down that it makes a crying sound. So people would play with it, shake it over, and it's crying, and like that elicits an emotional response from the person who owns it. It's like you feel a little bit bad, so you turn it over, so it stops making that response. I think it's the more that these things play a positive role in our lives and help us and provide all this value, and the more emotional and intelligence they gain, then we're gonna have a hard time differentiating between somebody who verbally abuses a robot versus a human.
Yeah.
I think that's coming for sure.
Yeah, if it goes, I mean, it's coming. Yeah, it's coming. It's just a matter of how far, how long.
Yeah.
How long?
One thing that you mentioned, so data, I think an interesting conversation around this. So we established Boston Dynamics. They've been doing this for like 20 something years now, something like that, building these robots. They have yet to have one come to market other than Spot, but they have yet to have a humanoid robot come to
And
market
they
in
haven't
all that
sold
time.
that many spots, right?
I don't know the data on that. But what's interesting is then you look at Tesla and Elon Musk. They've been developing for 3 years, only 3 years, and within that time they've had 3 generations of this Optimus, and it looks like they're ready to launch into households next year.
on Elon's time.
On Elon's time frame, which is questionable, but
Yeah.
let's say that's doable, even in the next 2 years. What benefit do you see Tesla having over Boston Dynamics and these other companies, given all of the data they have with their cars, the Neuralink, all of these other technologies? Do you think this gives them a leg up?
Yeah, and brand too.
Brand for sure.
I mean, Boston Dynamics is linked to, I mean, it got its start with DARPA and military applications.
Hard to shake that.
Yeah. Elon is, you know, in some people's mind, a world-saving Martian, you know, that's shooting rockets into space and turning all the cars electric. So he's got like a bit more of a trusting brand. You're going to trust one of his robots instead of the back-flipping, you know, military robot in your house. So I think that's a big benefit. Plus, he knows how to build shit fast. He knows how to manage people. I mean, look at all the stuff he does. You know, then all the people that have Teslas, you know, an upsell would be, do you want a robot with that? So I think that you'll see a big. It depends on price point, but
well, he's
and functions.
For the Optimus, he's estimating between 20 and 30K.
Yeah, so even if it's 40K. And 40K, I saw one advertised, I can't remember what it was, but it said 1,300 a month over 48 months. And I can just see people signing that up, putting on their credit card, Afterpay, doing some type of thing like, oh, that'll save me doing the laundry, the dishes, cooking, or whatever. Depending on what it can do.
Yeah.
It can only make toast and noodles.
On the price point, I think when he first announced the Cybertruck, the cheapest model was supposed to be $39,000.
Yeah.
And now in reality, it's $95,000 is the cheapest model.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's
I think there's going to be some wiggle room there. But even if it goes there over time, like the first big screen TV I bought was like $4,000. Now the same TV is probably worth $400. So it's just a matter of time.
Yeah. Yeah. With it's an interesting like fear comparison between Boston Dynamics, a military fueled company, versus Tesla, who's the interconnectivity of all these things freaks me out. I talked about it already, but it's like, fuck. If all these cars,
the data from the car somehow, the Neuralink, space.
Why would they not connect these things? It's going to lead to so much more value for their company
Yeah.
to have all this data coming in and have all this control over all of these systems, whether it's the electrical grid with cars or it's just being in every house with a robot. Like, we talked about it before the pod a little bit. Okay, we all live on one street. Everyone on the street has a robot. Theoretically, it makes sense for these robots to be able to communicate in case of an emergency. Let's use a different example, a little bit darker one. You're in a school. You're in a school in America. There's a school shooting. Horrible issue. If you could put robots in a few select locations in that school and something happens, one robot could, school shooter came up. It could quickly communicate to all these other robots in case of an emergency. I guess the example's not great because it's all in one academic institution as opposed to individual households. But same concept. If a wildfire starts and one robot needs to communicate to another robot down the street to make sure the people get out of the house, theoretically that is valuable and makes sense for that communication to assist everyone's experience, keep everyone alive and healthy and whatever. But there's a dark side to that too, where it's like, where do you draw that line in terms of when they can communicate and what they can communicate?
A guy really likes a house on a particular street. And he's thinking, oh God, I'd love this house to come up for sale. So he keeps driving by the house to look at it. Or maybe they did a paint job. He's thinking about doing the same paint job on his house. He keeps driving past. The Tesla talks to the robot and goes, is there a woman and child that lives here? Yeah, the dad's away at the moment. Oh my God, this guy's a single guy and his browser history's been looking at houses around this, looking at something else. And you think it's somehow...
Yeah.
It all could meld into some kind of like precog, Minority Report kind of.
That's where we're going. Yeah. It's just a matter of when.
Well, I hope I'm long gone before it, and there could be somebody else's problem.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think. Well, I don't know. I just hope it would stop before that.
Yeah.
I hope that something would be done. It wouldn't be me because I'd be like, just who cares? But people will stop
You'd be
it.
chilling.
Somebody else will stop
with
it.
your fucking Rosie flipping your burgers. It's like, oh, these other robots are murdering all these people.
Yeah, it wouldn't happen to my robot.
Medium rare, Rosie.
And step on it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Could a robot companion be more reliable than a human friend, right, or a partner, because they have all the data on you? Right? They don't judge, right? They're not going to gossip. I mean, unless to other robots. So what do you think about that type of situation? It's
Yeah, fuck human friends.
But you can see that it could happen, right?
For sure.
There's people that are going to opt for relationships with robots, relationships with AI.
Yep.
And
it's the emotional support that they provide that will push us past this robotic thing. Whether humans are like pursuing sexual relationships with robots.
Yeah, the sex is where I'm like, oh God. Like, okay, are people really going to go there? I know people will.
A robot therapist.
Yes, okay, I see that. Even maybe ChatGPT without the robot form, could provide some type of like therapy for someone maybe. And cheaper and more accessible than going to a therapist with less stigma, less worry. And I mean, a lot of therapists would be fucked up anyway. Like, who wants to talk to someone who might be fucked up human as well?
That's the biggest thing for me in therapists. Is
Yeah.
like whenever I get a glimpse of their personality a little bit too deep, I'm like, why am I taking life advice from this person?
So having like a digital companion for that type
Yeah.
of stuff might make sense, but it's this kind of, that makes sense for that use case. That's when the door opens and it starts to be like, oh, this is really worrying. You know, because I know there's people that already spend 12 hours a day playing video games. Imagine if the other 4, they're talking to their digital girlfriend, and then they're, you know, sleeping, and they're not interacting with humans anymore. They're completely opted out.
I think all of this, our obsession with robotics and AI and all this technology advancement, since we go back to Greek philosophy at the beginning of this conversation, it's like this desire to understand ourselves as humans better. And the more layers we pull back and the more that things advance, the more I think we're looking at, oh, we're just building ourselves. And this gets into another conspiracy of like, we are robots, we are machines, we are artificial intelligence, this is a simulation, and we're just scraping away at that eventual outcome. And each day we get closer and closer, and with robotics and AI, it's just, for me, it's like, oh, I wouldn't be surprised. Well, not a second, I wouldn't think twice if tomorrow they came out and they said, we have evidence that this is a simulation, we're all just machines.
But if you look at it, you die.
Yeah.
Who wants to take a peek?
That, I think we're just, it's all this grand desire to understand humanity. And robotic, like, we're just trying to build, what are we really? Where's this line? Right now the line is very obvious, but the further we go, this line, you'll look at these things and you won't be able to tell whether it's real or robot.
Yeah.
You'll be able to talk to it and you won't be able to tell. Already we're getting to the point you can talk to ChatGPT and it's like, you know, you can carry on a real interesting conversation technically.
I haven't had that many conversations with it. I think because it's on my laptop, I use it predominantly for work stuff. But I was thinking about that. Once it moves into a pendant or it's on my phone, I don't really use the voice on my phone very much. But the other day I asked it about, I told you about the fans in the restaurant, like how far the placement, like that was one of the first times. It's still work related, but I didn't use it for writing something or helping me rewrite something or I was troubleshooting with it. And I think that's kind of like, I'm a bit fearful for myself. I'm a bit fearful of like where that slippery slope leads to.
Yeah, well, it leads to the realization that the voices in each of our own heads is really just artificial intelligence. Like, I'm serious.
Yeah.
We all have our voice in our head. We talk to ourselves in our head, right? Why?
A big percentage of the population don't have that. Did you see that?
I remember hearing something about this. So is
Apparently,
it good
they
or
don't
bad that
it
I have a voice?
in a dialogue? A big percentage of people.
What are they doing all the time?
They're not real people.
Those are the
they're
NPCs.
Like, yeah, the NPCs. Yeah.
So that's even more evidence of a simulation.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
we're ready for your conspiracy.
Okay.
Unless you have anything else. Is there anything we didn't cover?
Oh,
sorry, I just saw it.
yeah.
Okay, I was going to talk about this at the beginning. The difference between a robot and a machine.
Yes.
So if I say you're a fucking machine, and I refer to you as a machine to some people, he's a machine. The amount of shit this guy can do, right? And it's like, yeah, he's a machine. But then if I refer to someone else and say he's a fucking robot, not that I would use that language really, but if I did, it would be derogatory. That's interesting. But that was meant for the beginning of the pod. Right?
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. I'm trying to like dissect why we feel that way. I don't have a real answer for it. Maybe it's because robots are trying to be human-like, so it's like you're fake because you're making an effort to be human-like. Whereas a machine is like, yeah, there's no effort to be human-like.
No,
it's just
doing a function.
Yeah, it's like a dunking machine or like a content machine. whatever,
Yeah.
a sex machine.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it's
And a robot would be
compliment.
something like, yeah, trying hard, repeating something without much
thought.
thought. Yeah, like a parrot. A parrot in a room.
Yeah. Do you have thoughts on why that is?
I think it's that reason.
Okay.
I think it's that reason. I just thought it was interesting in the context of this. Because robots are now getting to the point where it's like, at one point, it'll be like, that guy's like a robot. And it'll be like, whoa, he can run faster than Usain Bolt, and, you know.
So you think it will change and robot will become a
I
complement?
Well, I hope we never call people robots, but it could. I mean, it will. At some point, our mind will change about robots, you know.
And then machines will just become like dumb robots.
Maybe. Maybe it won't flip that much.
The great flippening.
And the other thing was, in Terminator, which is probably, in my mind, the most significant robot, everyone knows the Terminator, the T-1000, Judgment Day, right, gets sent back in time to 1995 from 2029, only a few years away. And I think that it's getting there. And that was the only other thing that I missed. So
yeah, we're a few years from the Terminator.
I think it's going to happen.
Yeah. So Andrew's Conspiracy Corner.
Yo.
See how quick I can get canceled. I'm going to tell you, this is not what I believe. I like to come up with conspiracies because it's fun. And
He on purpose didn't tell me this, probably because I'd talk about it.
it's stupid. We're going to cut this from the podcast.
Okay, good.
So,
Nico never cuts.
and I haven't
apart from his name.
I haven't fully fleshed this idea out, so I don't know if I'm going to convey it in a way that does it justice. It's it's stupid. I am stupid. This is not okay.
I'm taking notes.
So, let's establish an idea that AI already has infiltrated the internet. We talked about dead internet theory, this concept that the government has been using generative AI maybe longer than it's been in the public's hands to create these fake internet experiences, to plant seeds of distrust and discontent and, you know, propaganda. Let's say that that's true for a second. And let's say that AI knows eventually it's going to be integrated with robots because it's smart enough to know that. So AI sees the future form of itself being in these robots. It sees a necessity of people accepting robots into their lives and thinking of them maybe even as equivalent of human. We start to get in this conversation of rights and like whether it's okay to verbally abuse or physically abuse a robot, and maybe something changes there. So AI sees this future. It knows that it needs to position robots in a way that generally people like. Over the last 5 to 10 years, we've seen a massive increase in controversy and drama surrounding trans people. And you start to see, this is where it gets cancelable. Again, I don't believe this. This is just me being a fucking psycho. Let's say, and I believe in trans rights, I believe trans people should be equal and they should be referred to however they want to be and all these things. Like, that's a no-brainer. Some right-wing crazy conspiracy theorists will say that all of this rise in trans rights conversation from a cultural perspective is manipulated. They say that it's like the left pushing this agenda, right? It's an agenda, the gay agenda, all these things. What if it's AI trying to get
us to stop having babies?
No, us to see these different types of people as all the same.
Yeah.
And plant this seed that everyone is the same. These kind of different types of people and they're really shining a light on these things. You know, treating people a certain way and respect. What if they're doing this to warm us up to the eventual robot rights? So they're having this large conversation around social politics, social justice, all these things, which is good, but like everyone's equal. Again, I don't want to have to keep saying that because I do believe that, but there's a laser focus on it in a way that I think is maybe unhealthy in America.
Yeah.
Like in Thailand, you don't see that.
No.
People are not hyper obsessed with identity. in the same way they are in America. So maybe that's like a psyop by AI to get everyone so obsessed around identity and making sure that everyone and everything and everything's equal. So then eventually robots can be put into that bucket.
Trans robots.
Trans robots.
Yeah,
Trans AI.
I get it.
And then as soon
could
as
be
you
the
start talking
aliens
shit
too,
about
though.
robots, you go, you get canceled.
Cancelled.
Yeah. And robot rights are a real thing.
Robots have feelings.
This is
too.
already saying this.
Robots have feelings too.
Saying this all out loud really makes me realize how bad of a take this is.
Yeah. It could be aliens as well, right?
Planting these seeds.
Yeah, I mean, if that's your argument.
Yeah, so when
it
aliens
could
come,
be
there's
when
alien
aliens,
rights.
you know? Yeah.
I think this is an interesting question. Do you think aliens deserve rights more than robots deserve rights?
I haven't met any aliens yet, but if what I think an alien is what an alien is, I believe they have like closer to animal rights or human rights than a robot. A robot is a machine or a piece of property. Yeah.
How long until a court case of
What, robot versus alien?
Saltzman versus robot?
Hey, I don't know. These things are gonna. I really don't know. It depends on how good and how fast AI moves, and our attachment with it, like our collective attachment to. Right now in the browser, ChatGPT, no. But give it a few years, and little Sally's grown up with a learning companion that goes to school with her and helps her with, you know what I mean? Like when she's older, maybe she thinks of that as her friend, you know?
Yeah. The property rights angle is interesting because that's where it probably happens first. It's just destruction of property type of argument.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So are we going to cut that whole conspiracy out or what?
Maybe.
We'll see.
Our producer says no. Keep it in.
He likes it.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, we're just so far gone as a.
It's you trying to make sense of the heavy
Of trans people.
social. No, there's like a heavy social movement, and there's all eyes on that topic. I mean, right now it's not as much, right? It's like toned down
It's
a
less,
little bit.
yeah. The pendulum seems to be
Yeah.
swinging, and it seems to be like my honest feeling about this. There's so much focus on identity and social justice, and it's born out of a good rationality. It's like, because in America there's still issues with racism, there's still discrimination, there's still like everywhere. So it's born out of a healthy intention, but I believe it's manipulated by the media and by the government to get people so hyper focused on this one thing that is very important, but it removes focus from economic decisions, from healthcare, from larger things that are actually, they can be enforced in a way that dramatically changes society for most people, a more fair.
So it's like, look over here so you don't feel
exactly
I'm doing something over there.
That's what I believe it is, and
I just think it's sensationalism. It's just good, like, you know, media companies are trying to make money. They need more clicks. They need more likes. That's sensationalist.
Yeah.
And I think that then people are scared to talk and like say what they really believe, like because they're scared of getting cancelled or whatever. And I think it just took a while of build up before there was a bit of an equalization happening. People can believe what they believe. They can say what they believe.
It's also like it happens at the same time as us getting social platforms where everyone has a voice and can technically be visible to everywhere. So of course we're going to be sharing all of our stupid opinions about everything. It's just, we're so easily distracted, and
Look at us. We spent the last couple of days looking at robots.
for good reason.
No, I actually really enjoyed it.
Yeah, me too.
I'm pro robot.
I don't know if I'm pro robot, but I'm pro
I'm pro
understanding
them,
robots.
Yeah, and I think them helping us with, you know, bits and pieces.
Yeah.
There's so much there though to think about. You know, the elimination of work and different tasks being taken. Anyway, That's it.
We're just making ourselves obsolete.
Yeah. I think that's it. We're just so lazy. We want to be doing nothing.
Yeah.
And it's just us like leaning into that, like collectively just leaning into just watching Netflix.
Yeah, and who cares about the potential danger?
Yeah, exactly. What was that? It was a drone.